that I knew a whole bunch of stuff. Let me tell you one thing I really didn't know. I didn't know anything about coffee when I first got into coffee. I knew that I didn't like coffee. That's pretty much all I knew about it. But and to this day, I still don't actually drink coffee really, which is not really a surprise to most people. But I think I didn't understand the coffee industry. When I first got in the coffee industry, I just was like, "Yeah, what's up, y'all?" Knock the door down. Your boy Ian's here, and they're like, "What do you want?" And at first, I thought like I was upset about it because I thought that it had to do with me being black or whatever. But it actually was just that I didn't understand the industry of coffee, how baristas got where they got, how owners got where they got, the way that the business operated from whatever front. And then once I started to understand and respect that, then I could figure out where we would move from there. But I had to respect the game of coffee first. So did that answer the question?
That answered the question
Okay.
brilliantly. And to put it in another sentence, you said, I needed to study my industry. We oftentimes see people start their boutique, start their lash business, and they have no idea what's going on. Nothing wrong with that, guys. Get started, do your thing. But what he said is he had to kind of do some research, he had to learn some things, had to understand the industry. I think it's powerful.
Every time I see a fly now, when someone's speaking, I think of Mike Pence.
Absolutely.
Like, it's Mike Pence's fly, trying to get more stage time. I think I would have told myself to go 3 times bigger. I think I've wasted too much time second guessing myself and my ideas a lot of the time. And yeah, even now, I think I hold myself back a lot. So there's both, right? Like, respect your industry, but also like sometimes I have to channel my inner mediocre white guy and just do it anyway.
You just said a lot, and we kind of need to unpack that. But what do you think, before we pass from you, what do you think makes you not go as big as you should go? What is that thing?
Well, there's a thing that I think particularly women do. I wrote about this week that, we wait until we're 110% qualified before we apply for the job or go for the opportunity. And men tend to wait like 70% good is good enough. And so you got to round up some of the time. And then just, I'm a generalist. I'm a creative person. And so I'm interested in a lot of different things. But that can sabotage you as a small business owner because you get shiny object syndrome and you're like, I should, be the best coffee shop in Portland. You don't need to have coffee. Oh, and then, well, maybe I should sell sandwiches. Oh, maybe I should also sell this, that. You know what I mean? Like, you can really dilute the power of your brand by trying to do too many different things. Just go really big with that one thing you can do best is usually a good way to start.
I love it. I love it. Is this valuable so far? Is this good? I love this. Let's keep this going.
I think I would tell myself there's no rule book. Like when I first started in the industry in the mid 90s, and I started at Cross Colors, which was the one and only black owned apparel company that changed the world at that time. I felt like I showed up and I didn't know anything. But I did. I brought all of my talent with me. And then I moved to a larger corporate company, Adidas, and I felt like everybody got a rule book that I didn't get. And it turns out there is no rule book. Everybody was pretending. So you bring a lot to the table, and sometimes it takes a community of people or the person next to you to help validate that. And you can be that person to remind them that there is no rule book. You get to do whatever you want. The only thing that you're responsible for doing is being a problem solver. And the more you problem solve, the more directions you can take.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
First, I want to shout out, we have a doctor in the room. So Dr. Dwayne Edwards, founder of Penn Lewis College, made all the shoes for a guy named Michael Jordan, all sorts of things, patents, no big deal. If you're in one of his classes, he'll ask you a question pretty early on, and he'll ask you to dream big. And then he'll pause, and you'll write something down, and then he'll say, wait, dream bigger. And so I think to Ciara's point, we are the amalgamation of our perspective and our experiences and who we're around. And the most important thing I think that I wish I would have known early on was the value of social capital and the people that are around you. They not only answer the questions you have, but also maybe more importantly, know the questions to ask that you don't even know to think of. And so I think the success that I've had as a founder and working with founders has always been around who are the people that are surrounding you, because they're either lifting you up or they're pulling you down. And that's a big piece of I think, thinking big and dreaming big and planning and acting big as well.
Wow, wow, wow. Can we clap for that? Because I just thought it was super powerful. A lot was said. We could go home right now and we would be full. And I love that you brought up social capital, because when I moved here to the West Coast, I was using things like the Black Portland Group to build my social capital on the West Coast. Now we've been here 3 years, and we have clients like the Urban League of Portland, and we have staff working for us, and it's amazing. You guys can do a lot with social capital as opposed to finances, and that's something that community is for. That's why you're here, because you know folks that I don't know. You've got answers that I don't have, and I think there's some humility in that answer that will allow all of us to grow. So thank you for rounding that out like that. Let's go into this. So we know what we would have told our younger selves, so that means we've made some mistakes along the way maybe. What are some of the biggest obstacles you've had to face in order to make your business profitable? And how did you overcome it?
Undercharging. For good and bad reasons. I started out in the arts, and Angela and I had lunch before this, and we're talking about when you start out in something like the arts, you're used to working for free so much, you don't know how to charge for your talent, because, in what I call like the glamour industries, right? Anything everyone wants to do could be sports, arts, media, it's like you have to work for free so much that you don't realize how much you're worth. And then, so I did that for a long time. I didn't make a lot of money. And it was when I started getting City of Portland contracts and all that information. And this was only 2 years ago, guys. I've been self-employed for 13 years. That's when I really started charging enough money, because all of that is public record. And I was like, I don't want people to think I'm the cheapest option. I want to be like toward the top of the options, because you want people to value. Pricing is so psychological. We know the same shoe. Okay, no, we know shoes are quality. It's all about quality. But like the perceived value of a thing and the price tag, it's all psychology. And so when anyone could access what I was charging, that's when I started charging appropriately. So it wasn't until this year that I really started to pay myself, that's the other thing, paying yourself properly, a salary approaching what my experience and expertise should command. But it's hard. It's hard when you're used to hustling and not taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And before you go, because you always say things that lead me into something, when did you write, what was that feeling like when you wrote your value? You charged your value, your dollar amount was in the invoice. Were you like, finally, or were you like, oh my God, they paid it? What was that feeling like?
It hasn't been like just a before and after, because it's been, sort of a winding road with different clients and different types of work. And it's scary at first, because you just have to put the proposal out there and then you have to shut up. Because a lot of times we'll talk ourselves back into a discount and the client didn't say anything. And you're like, but I could discount it for you. So you just put the money there, and then you just have to be like, and then you're getting paid properly. And then you realize, oh, I should have been charging this the whole time, because it really is worth that. Right. Yeah. And then you can pay other people, which is in a whole other level. Yeah.
I love that. Let's keep this going. Who wants to get in on that?
Obstacles, right? Okay.
That prevented you from making your business profitable. Because we got all kinds of obstacles.
Yes.
Right.
All right, so I'm a work in progress. I know a lot of things that I'm supposed to be doing. It sounds logical and makes sense. But one of the things that I'm working on, and I've been thinking about and trying to practice, is knowing that I don't have to do everything myself. Like, I need to hire people who are good at the parts that either I can't get to or that I'm not good at, so I can actually focus on the business. And I see some heads nodding, so I think there are other people here who agree. And I think that's the biggest obstacle for me to move forward and grow the business, is to learn that I don't have to be in control of everything. I just need to control those things that will help grow the business.
I love that. And I think what we're saying is focus on the income producing activities. If you have a paint business, you might not need to be the person that goes to buy the paint supplies. You just need to paint. So why are you at the grocery store? You do that enough times, you realize you're losing. And if it don't make dollars, y'all what? Okay, let's keep it going.
So, I love spreadsheets. I'm the one that helps Ian not, make a better coffee cup, but understand how much a cup of coffee costs. And I think, to your question, what keeps us from being profitable is oftentimes we only think about revenue, but we don't think about profits. We don't think about cost of goods sold, and we don't think about cash, right? So we don't pay our employees with revenue. We don't pay them with profits. We pay them with cash, right? And so you not only have to understand is whether you're making a profit, but when is that money coming in so that you can pay your employees? Because you got to pay your employees every 2 weeks, right? But if your vendors are only paying you once a month, you got a gap there. And so I think one of the great things that brings people into entrepreneurship is they see a problem, they want to go solve it, or they have a specific skill set and they want to go leverage it outside of the workplace they were at before, but they don't go and say, well, I want to have 20 employees, or I want to do, payroll a couple times a week and lose, 4 hours of my life. No one does that, right? And so people love working in the business, but not necessarily on the business. And so when it comes to like building out your team and having that social capital, if you're the one that loves working in the business and making the perfect cup of coffee, make sure you got someone on your team that's going and saying, oh, that cup of coffee costs $2.22 every time you make it, based on wages and the beans and the time you put into it. Because that's the thing that leads to whether you can even know if you can be profitable, right? And if you're not making a profit, then you've got a hobby, right? And we all need hobbies, but don't go into hock, don't lose your partner, don't lose your friends over a hobby, right? And so it's I think really important to know, up front, the difference between revenue, profit, and cash.
That's really good. Yeah, it's powerful.
I feel like Steven took the microphone before me because I'm just going to double click into what he just said, because that is one of the things that we talk about the most, it's one of the things we talk about the most is this, that, a lot of times I'm like, yeah, this is cool, this is tight, this is fun, this is blah, blah, blah. But we do need to, like, for many years we said, like, it needs to go from being a shop to a business. And now there's 2 locations, Deadstock and this one. And we can even talk a little bit more about this one in greater detail at some other point. But one of the greatest things I would say that I did recently was, we've been roasting for maybe 4 years or 5 years now. We've been open doing coffee for like 7 or 8, something like that. I don't know. And 7, thank you. 7 years. And one of the best things that I did was brought in somebody from a bigger roasting company she had left that company and was just like doing some consulting. And for many years, I was like, one day I'll be able to afford you. One day we'll be able to work together. And then she was essentially a free agent, and I was like, now's the time. And I knew that it was going to cost a lot more money than what I'm used to paying. But we had 2 people who were working at the roastery, had her come in, and she was just going to be kind of like overseeing and helping us tighten it up. And one of the most important things that she said was, I still want to keep the integrity of Deadstock and what y'all do. But as soon as she came in, the people who were working at the roastery started to feel it, and they were like, I'm out. And she instantly has made it so that she's like, this is too cheap. We should be doing this. This is inefficient. This is how we need to be. And I was like, I need you to come in and forecast, do this, do that, because I know it needs to be done. I just can't do it. I'm not good at it. And she's been with us for like a month and is already exponential growth. So both in the team, in my pocket, and just efficiency, everything. So that was a really, really, really big deal. And so now I'm just like, I'm gonna keep doing that. Like this is working. I like this is tight. So
What I love about your answer and everything that's coming from that side of the panel is the humility, because oftentimes we start our businesses and nobody can tell us about deficiencies. Nobody can tell. We so great. We so awesome. So I love that not only that, you're relying on other professionals to build this and then paying them their worth. So that's pretty powerful, because oftentimes we want to hire our little cousin, and then we only want to give little cousin $8 an hour. And that's not fair, so we got to think about that.
I can also speak to that too, because I hired my little nephew and was paying him $8 an hour. And then today we had a conversation where he was like, listen, I got this mortgage, and so isn't it $8 ain't working no more. Put a 2 in front of that 8, and I'm like, man, you crazy. But also like, yeah, I respect that. Yeah. So it's not 28. Don't get it twisted. But I love him, but come on.
I love everything about that story, though, because your cousin was there, or your nephew, was there when you needed to build and we needed low labor. Guys, that's a big part of it, too. If you know that Lisa, right there, my homegirl, Lisa has a business and she's building, and your young teenager can take on a job to help her at a low rate, let's do that. After 2-3 years, they're getting a raise. They're the manager. They're helping you open another. Come on, y'all. This thing is all full circle. That's true. And once again, I got to give it up to XB, because we can't build community without events like this. We can't big up each other without the opportunity to see each other and connect with each other. So I thank them so much. Can y'all clap it up for them one more time? Positive reinforcement. We want them to keep going, right? So here's the next question. And I love this question because I'm a marketer. I think you guys are going to love it too. What is the best way for small business owners to market their business on a budget?
Actually, Angela, will you take this one?
I don't know if I can, well, this is the person here who's going to really drive it home. I think for House Dog, it's been really easy to get free content from the user. Anyone who has a dog and buys product, they like showing it off. So that's something that you can go deeper on, just user content. For the educational program, there's, people want to show what they've accomplished. So again, use the consumer to get the word out. But this PR here, you probably have a lot.
I'm trying to boil it down, because before pregame I had a marketing PR agency and worked only with people with no budget. So I'm all about maximizing that budget. I think it depends on who your audience is, right? Yeah, so it's, throwing back a question. But I think we over-rely on social media for the time suck that it is. I think we worry about I got to be on Instagram now, I got to be on Facebook, I got to be on TikTok. Da, da, da. Well, maybe your audience is only looking to buy from you or learn about you on LinkedIn. Then you don't have to do all the other stuff so much. So don't give social media more than it needs. But I think getting into communities like strategic partnerships that already have that trust and that relationship with the audience you're trying to sell to, and getting them to front for you and introduce you in those communities, it's like multiplying, it's 10xing the word of mouth, right? So it's not, you don't just need the testimonial from a satisfied customer. I can go to you and say, hey, we have this thing of value for your community. Could you introduce us? We'll create a win-win situation. So strategic partnerships, I think, is the most valuable thing. And then you're building long-term relationships where you're going to get support back too.
That's really good. That's really good. And so we need community once again, so that we can be a part of other people's events and things that are going on, and say, hey, can I mention my thing that I'm doing? It's brand new and I just want to talk about it. And then do something in return. I like that. I like it. Guys, how are you marketing on a budget? When you first started, you didn't have an agency. It was just you and your dream. How did you?
We don't have an agency today.
Right. How do you do it?
I think, Ciara really hit the nail on the head. The most important thing about marketing is knowing who your customer is, right? I think oftentimes people feel the need to be busy and to be doing something, but it's not based in knowing who actually is paying for their product. So for us, we sell books, right? Our customer and our user are two different people. A 7-year-old doesn't have a debit card, right? So yeah, we could go and be in classrooms, but we wouldn't be marketing to one of our customers. We'd be marketing to our users. And so, we have 7 specific customer personas that make up who our customers are as of today. And then we have a specific strategy for each one of those personas that we go out to connect with them and sell. We also are always looking at where people buy our stuff from. 80% of our books are bought via a mobile phone, right? So it makes sense for us to be doing marketing there. But regardless of the marketing that you're going to do, if it's not connected to knowing specifically who your customers are and testing those hypotheses over time, it's just not going to work. And you're going to end up being busy, and it's going to be really, really expensive. But it's not going to be turning into sales. And ultimately, that's what you're hoping for, is not people just hearing about the brand, but them spending money. Because if they're just hearing about it and they're not spending money, it doesn't matter.
I think my answer is going to be a little bit. I know my answer is going to be a little bit different. The easiest way to do it on a budget, honestly, is to do it myself. A lot of times, like, I'm my best marketing, and I just had a conversation with Dwayne about African American Footwear Forum coming up in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Y'all better be there at Pensole Lewis, Dr. Dwayne School. You know what I'm saying? Got to promote my family. Yeah, but a lot of the conversation was like, do we show up? Do I show up and serve out of off a table, or do I show up and serve with this vehicle that we built out? If it means for me to get in the car and drive it to Detroit, I'm gonna do that, right? Because like the best way for me to show up is for me to show up. And one of the hardest parts though is to remove myself from it. But on the flip side of that, or opposite from that, also is that, like, he was jokingly saying, you added up how much money you spent at Deadstock since 2015.
$3,281.43.
That's a lot of coffee. That's a lot of coffee. That's also a lot of meetings. A lot of times he's brought people in. I can tell you, I seen Jeff, I seen Alice, I seen so many people at the coffee shop since. They used to help me carry the table every day when I had a little stand. DJ used to work with me in the cafe after he got off of his job. Like, there's so many people who, like, the other side of it is to have, people who are around you come back. So as much as you can market, you got to have everybody else market for you as well. So
I like that answer. I want to add to it. And I love what you said just about you are your best marketer. And I've been telling my clients this since 2013. And when they get on the phone with me, that's a shock because I'm still going to send you an invoice. But the point is, you are your best marketer. This is your story. This is your business. And I think the idea of telling your story, however you tell that story, knowing your elevator pitch, being able to consistently or concisely say what it is you do. Some folks are umming through the whole thing. I done tuned out and got on my phone. Get through this pitch. And then do what we did back in the day with our Mary Kay folks. Y'all know? Have an event and invite people out to see what you got going on. You can do that on a budget. You were going to do that regardless. You were going to run your mouth and talk about yourself regardless. Might as well throw your little business in there as well. Easiest way to market on a budget. I love the answers that you guys provided. Very, very thorough. We got 2 more questions, and then we turn it over to you guys. So I hope you're ready. Okay? All right, so here's the deal. This is a good one. Everybody wants to know this. If you're in business and in need of funding in order to scale, what's the best way to approach investors?
I call Steven.
You can get me upset. All right, so I'm an economist by training, and so data and numbers is really, really important to me. So first I'm going to say this. We are in a moment in time where raising money, getting investors, is the most glamorized it's ever been, right? So the way you get into an article, you raise some money. The way Afrotech writes about you, you raise some money. Here's the real truth, though. 99.6% of U.S. companies will never raise equity of any kind because it's a bad tool for them, right? 28%, only 28% of U.S. companies will ever get a loan, right? So that means the normal thing to do by more than 70% of businesses is to go with these investors called customers.
Ah, yes.
Customers, right? They're not in your business. They're not asking you about your P&L. They're not asking about who you just hired and what their share dividend's going to be or anything like that, right? But they show up and they're consistent. In a normal day in Portland, we spend $4 million on food, right? In a normal year in Portland, we do about $40 million in SBA loans to businesses here in town, right? So after a little over a week, we're spending more on food than people even get in loans here, right? And so the power of the consumer is really, really important. We just have to take away this thing that we've been seeing in the news around doing it. The best thing that you can do is know when you need an investor. So we've raised a little over $8 million. 92% of our investors are black folks around the country. But that was because our business, the way we built it, is it needs investment capital, right? And we knew that. But most businesses, the great thing is they don't. And so the best thing you can do is understand that your friends love you. Your grandma lied to you about your coffee, right? She doesn't like your coffee, but she likes you, right? So you just got to validate your business with customers, people that you don't even know that are willing to pay you their hard-earned money, and do that again and again and again, better and cheaper over time. Like that's the cheat code. But you know, I think I see a lot of people fail at raising, and they associate that with the success of their business or the traction that they've had in their business, and that's just not the thing that's realistic or backed up by data whatsoever. So,
Can y'all clap for that response? That was powerful. We got to treat our customers right. That's the investor. Somebody else have a different perspective? I really love that. You know, when I was reading these questions that Adrian wrote for me, I was really like, ooh, I want to know, how do we get investors? Because I bootstrapped it. You figured it out. You got people to purchase, and that's just what it is. Brick by brick by brick. Treat your customers well, and they'll keep coming back. All right, so with no investments. No, just to be clear, none. Anybody in the room have an investor support them? Just curious? Yes. Care to share anything? I want to make sure we don't leave a stone What part? How did you get the investor to invest in your business, and how much money did they give you? Is that right? Is that what we want to know? That's what we want to know.
I'm gonna tell you the second part, but the first part, quite honestly, was the same bootstrap. They came to me. I didn't have to go to them. I performed and delivered, and I made myself attractive enough for them to come to me. But I intentionally.
They want to make sure that we can hear you.
Sorry about that. So I similar to some of the other folks on the panel, I bootstrapped it. I used my own money, but I was smart enough to listen. Actually, one of my attorneys, he asked when I first started was, who's going to buy you? And I was like, what you mean? Nobody going to buy me? I'm good. I'm like, this is my last thing. But he was like, no, who would benefit most from what you're trying to do? And I analyzed that, and I realized it was 3 different lanes, because for the academy, it was a retailer, a larger school, or a company. So the company can capitalize on all the talent. The larger school would get more students because we teach what other schools don't. And then the retailer would be able to create products fresh from consumers, right? The retailer came first. It took 8 years, though. 8 years of targeting all 3 of those people with our work. The retailer came first and offered, well, actually public, $2 million. So they offered me $2 million. The school, I turned it down. And then what was the third one? The company, I turned it down. Actually, I turned down $15 million from a big company in Portland, actually. Because one company can't monopolize all the talent. Our model is to help everybody. I can't just be service to one person. So with that in mind, I work with all the top footwear companies, I work with all the schools, and I work with all the big retailers. So if I just would have went with that one, I would have been stuck in this one little lane, where sometimes you can get excited about money. All money ain't good money, right? And you got to know the difference between good money and bad money. And sometimes we get that mixed up because we see money. I grew up broke, so it's not like I grew up with money. I grew up broke. So for me, I have a value of the importance of money, but being able to work at 3 different billion-dollar companies, I saw what the potential could be if you just do it the right way and you hold out and don't get too excited and too greedy. I'm a patient person, though. That's different, but I have a plan. They all know I got plans. And I'm methodical, and it's working. And it's working.
Thank you so much for jumping in, right? Because we can learn from each other. I got to tell you, just keep in mind that we're talking about a $7 trillion industry when we talk about black folks and our spending power, all right? So when we think about building it until they invest in you, that's how it should be, because we're spending trillions, guys. So I love that. Let's go into our last question. What is the biggest mistake you see black business owners make that their white counterparts avoid?
Charging less. Honestly, like sometimes I hear about the checks that my homies get in coffee. I'm like, dog, what? And they're like, oh yeah, you just got to make this. And I'm just like, what? How? So yeah, charging less. We make that mistake a lot. And so you're right, CR. Yeah, we be playing. Charge them suckers more money.
I like that answer. Charging too less. That's something that we do notoriously. Okay, what else?
I would say something simple like networking. I think we often have this definition of networking that is short. It's not just being in a small space and talking business. It's about the social equity of connecting with people. And I think for the longest time, I didn't see that as part of like the viable part of a business. You know, that's why people go golfing. You know, they socialize, they make deals on the course. And I got to start golfing. But yeah, like, like networking, just understanding more about what that is and just start doing that on the regular.
I like that. And since you brought up that point, remember this is your golf course today. So you might not have gone golfing this season. That's okay. You're still in season right now. So before you leave, connect with somebody. Connect with them on social media. Strike up a deal with them. Find out, this is important, how can you help them?
Yeah.
And that'll keep you connected.
Yeah, golfing can mean anything. And then also, to her point, on the other side of that, you know, find out how you can help other people, like build that community of resources just by helping the other person. And you never know, it could be one day, 1 year, 10 years down the line, they may be your only resource or the most important resource for you to do the thing that you need to do next.
I don't like to criticize anyone's hustle because I'm like, oh, it's so hard. But, you know, I always want design to be better. Like I sit here in Concourse, I go to Deadstock, and I just think, you know, there's a great design aesthetic in Portland generally because of a lot of the people in this room that bring it to the next level. But man, get better. I used to be in the theater, and I'm like these church flyers for like these businesses, and if you're just trying to sell to the aunties, I guess that's fine. But like with all the tools we have and how cheap it is to get like decent, if not great design, this at this point in time, like there's no excuse not to have a really fresh look. And someone will help you. You know, get on Canva, it's free. Get on, you know, these different resources. Get good design, like look good. Yeah.
Yes. Can y'all clap it up for that? Because we see the flyers with the misspellings. You clearly took the picture in your living room. You got the couch behind you. It's like a selfie with just your eyes. It's very strange, right? And I get it. We're trying not to be critical, but we're like, what just happened here? Who did the flyer for this event? Because it was amazing. Who did the flyer for this event? J-Lo? Y'all clap it up for J-Lo. He's not here, but... And then, to your point, just ask somebody. I've had people call me, how much for a flyer, girl? And I'm cheap, y'all. My little flyer is like, I don't know, $85. Cheap. Listen, it's a beginning product to get you somewhere else. So come, let me do your little flyer. You know, everybody have a little starter product. Get your folks through the door. That's a free tip for me. But folks will be like, you know what? No, I'll do it myself. How much is your time worth? It really is. Pass that over to a professional. And like she said, there's Canva. They're doing it for you, not making it easy for you to do it yourself if that's what you want to do. But a flyer is not that expensive, and it is literally the face of your event. I like it. Great point. What mistakes are we making that our counterparts avoid?
I don't think there's a broad brush of mistakes that I see. The mistakes we make are the same ones I see everyone else make, right, by and large. I think where there is some nuance is we don't understand the interconnectivity between what we do and what other people do. So the reason why I wouldn't charge $65 for a flyer and I would find out what the market is because when someone pays for that flyer, they're going to assign that value with another black woman's flyer, right? And so you don't want to undercut somebody else while you're learning, because they don't know you're learning, right? You could, this could have been your first day. They don't know that, right? They believe in what you're bringing to the table. Get the bag. I think the other thing where there is some nuance that I do see is we wait too long, and I think we've got a ton of talented folks at Nike, at Intel, at Bank of America that could be that are literally running large companies inside of these companies. But they could do it on their own. And I think that, spend some time with Dr. Edwards, spend some time with Ian, folks that have been in there that were like, yeah, like the decision is just, I gotta take that leap. I gotta bet on me. And I think where there is a difference is we take a lot longer before we make that bet on ourselves. Meanwhile, we are the culture. We're the ones inside these companies, making moves and doing all these things, but we're not betting on ourselves. And so, my dad always said there's two kinds of people in this world: those that sign the front of the check, those that sign the back of the check, right? Be that person signing the front of the check. Have your own website. Don't rent other people's websites. So,
I love that. Oh, yes. Getting juicy now.
I think also another thing is not that we do wrong and they don't worry about it or whatever, but I think a lot of times we ask for something or we're like, hey, let me get a blah, blah, blah. And then when somebody asks us, okay, like, what's your plan? And we're like, I don't know. How am I supposed to be? So if you ask for something or if you want to do whatever it might be, come prepared to explain what it is that you want, because they probably came prepared. So we also have to come prepared. So if we want free this, if we want to work at that, if we want an opportunity to do blah, 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 have a plan. Ask the questions beforehand. How many people are we expecting at the footwear forum, Dwayne? How many people, okay, I need to know how many people do I need to have with me? All that kind of stuff. So then when I come with the plan, so later on I can come with a plan. And also I can be ready to execute that plan. So we gotta come prepared more often. And that goes down to make sure the flyers aren't all wrinkled up on the counter and, with the selfie looking sideways, all that kind of stuff. So we gotta come prepared as well.
I like that answer. I like that. Y'all clap it up for our panelists. I think this was a beautiful panel. One of the things my grandmother taught me is there's more than one way to skin a cat. So as you're sitting here and you're thinking about how you're going to do your business, how you're going to support others, whatever feels good on the inside of you, if it feels good, go for it. And so as you guys ask questions, think about that. Whatever resonates in your soul, that might be what you need to do for your business. And that's okay, because we're all going to get to where we need to go if we have a plan, as Ian said. So any questions out here? Okay. Yes. Do y'all need the mic? Do you want to come to the front?
I don't know if I need a mic. Do I need a mic?
No, you don't. Okay, go ahead.
Testing.
There you go.
Hey everyone, my name is Blair G. Hervey. I'm also known as the corporate strategist, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging public speaker. And one half of the Visionary Squad, we create events for Black women to heal, to do our thing, all of the things. Check us out.
Yes.
Quick question for the panel. Hi Ian, hi Stephen, hi Ciara, and Angela from back in the day. Excellent. I just had a quick question. So Ian, you talked about doing everything yourself, which I've definitely done, we've done ad nauseum. What is one
To get started?
Yeah, it could be MailChimp. It could be what is one that you're just like, oh, I'm glad we started with this, and this helps scale my efforts.
Good question.
To get started, I don't know. I'm the most unorganized person in the world. Like,
Ask the mic.
yeah. So like but I will say that I'm perfectly honest saying that. Like I'm not afraid of it. I know I am. But recently, as we're growing on the roastery side of things, there is a program called Roaster Tools, and Roaster Tools it will do everything. Like you take all the orders, you put them into Roaster Tools, and it'll measure out. What a lot of people don't know is when you roast coffee, it actually loses weight but grows in volume. So it will. So you roast 100 pounds, you get about 85 pounds of coffee out of it. So it's a funky thing to calculate. Roaster Tools does that. But something like that for what we do. For years we didn't use it, and I was sitting there calculating. Not a spreadsheets guy, so I was calculating the first number, doing some equations, crossing my fingers. But Roaster Tools will do all of that. Tell you how many bags you need, how many labels, how many this and that. So when you go into, what's up, niece? So when you go into all of the later on, it just makes your output like super fast. So that was one that I used, but yeah, they're gonna give you some real day-to-day ones. And then I had somebody else do all the emails. That's the other thing. Find somebody who can do that for you.
I think for us, we've got a team of 11 folks using Gusto for our payroll and HR stuff, being able to manage benefits, all that through one platform is really a godsend. And it keeps our CFO really, really happy as well. I think for a lot of early stage businesses, they wait too long to work on that stuff or until they get in trouble when it's really, really expensive. Versus there's so many great online tools now where, you can spend 2 hours in the morning and be all set up for your whole team. So I would say Gusto.
Nice.
For me, it's the checklist. I don't care if it's on paper, it's in a spreadsheet, it's in a Word doc, Google Doc, or we use ClickUp, which is like Asana. But the checklist is magic. Break down the things you have to do into teeny tiny things, and then every check is like a little dopamine hit, and you feel good about getting every little action done. And like, I can't leave on Friday until I hit those check boxes. And it's like, it's been proven that putting something into checklist format makes it more likely to happen.
I would say a couple of things. Connecting QuickBooks to my checking account or credit card account and labeling those purchases that you purchase over and over. So when tax time comes, all you have to do is print out a spreadsheet. It's already, said what each thing is, and you don't have to look in that box of a million pieces of paper to figure it out. The other thing is, House Dog is mostly, 90%, 95% DTC, so direct to consumer. And I built my first website myself, and now I'm at a point where I realize that my website is not doing anything for me. And so I switched over to Shopify. And in addition to all the things that Shopify can connect to, from like discount shipping to social media, platforms like MailChimp and Klaviyo to help you with your subscribers, the thing that I think is going to help me the most is the add-on of a bundle app. And the one that I'm using is called Rebuy. And you guys have seen these plenty of times when you go to purchase clothes online. At the end, when you click on that thing that you're going to buy, there's a box that pops up that say, you might like also these 3 things. And that makes it easy for the consumer to purchase without thinking. And you are basing that on something that they purchased, so they probably already like it. They maybe did not see it. So just doing those things that are happening in the background and that I don't have to think about until I see what's sold.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Who's next? Were you Portia? Yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you. I think I can. I'm a thespian as well, so diaphragm. My name is Portia Jones, and I so my question for you, because I am not from this region originally, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, where, I think you talked about it, Adrian, we're immersed in a community that looks like me, that was easy to support. And I've noticed coming out into this area, loyalty to one another has been something that I have not experienced. And so I'm grateful for opportunities like this. Thank you so much. How would you, or how have you been able to overcome your own fears or promote loyalty within your community to your brands or to other Black companies like yourself? And what barriers have you seen with that psychologically? I would love to explore that more, because I think as we are here at the table, the questions you brought up were amazing. That we still have an issue, a psychological issue that is inhibiting us from being massively supported. So, if you have any thoughts on that, that would be amazing.
Amazing question.
I might be able to answer part of your question, the psychological part. I'm from the Southeast. I'm from North Carolina. And I grew up in a big family. They were mostly traditional. I was the only creative person. Every Christmas, I got the coloring books and the markers. Everybody knew what to get me, and that's all I got. So when I moved to the West Coast, and I've lived up and down the West Coast a couple of times in different cities, around different types of people, doing different types of things than I did when I grew up, what I realized is that I had the mentality initially that Black people don't do that. And you've heard it a lot. Black people don't do that. And that was the thing that I think limited me initially, until I realized that Black people can do whatever they want. We can do whatever we want.
Been doing it.
And we've been doing whatever we want. But that was like the 10-ton weight that I inherited, because there was a point in time when Black people couldn't do, not that they don't do, they could not do. And we don't have some of those obstacles now. So that would be one of the things around, it applies to business too. Like, I'm one of the very few, probably less than 1%, oh no, not probably, very much so, less than 1%, in the pet industry designing my own product. I think if there are other people of color in the pet industry doing anything, it's mostly around service, but I don't know anyone who's designing their own product. So I'm doing something that's new, and I'm hoping to introduce these opportunities to other people, and in everything that I do, I want to show people that Black people do these things.
Absolutely. Good.
So one, how do you promote loyalty? And then on the psychological side of things, I think one of the things, and two of the folks up here are part of an accelerator we run through Built Oregon. And as much as I'd love to say we talk about business in spreadsheets, it's really just being there for folks. And I think one of the unspoken things about being an entrepreneur, Black, white, or otherwise, is most of the people in your network are not entrepreneurs. And so they get off at 5, and they're like, come have a drink. And you're like, nah, bro, like, that ain't happening. I'm doing this weekend. Weekends are cool. I wish I had those. That's cool. And also that oftentimes growth is really, really tough for businesses. So growth is the number 4 killer of businesses in the United States. It's actually a bigger killer of businesses than access to capital. And I think what people don't think about is, when Angela's in the news for being part of Oprah's favorite things, and all those sales happen, that's really, really stressful, and that can almost put you out of business. And so from a psychological standpoint, you've got to have a group of other Black, brown founders that you don't have to explain things to, that don't ask you stupid questions on a Friday night at 5:30 of why you're not going to have a drink, so that you can navigate those things together. And also people that don't ask you for things. I know, Dwayne and I have talked about that before. Like, it'd be great if people just called and checked in and were like, how you doing? You good? You need anything? All right, keep it pushing, right? As opposed to, man, when I get a text, there's always a request. There's always an ask, right? as opposed to it's really great to be in the middle of the holidays, which are really, really busy for Angela and I especially, for someone to be like, bro, thinking about you, keep pushing them, keep slinging them books. And so it takes a toll, and it really does take a village. And I think a lot of the people that support entrepreneurs have nothing to do with the business. They're just the ones, trying to make sure the lights get turned on, the kids get picked up, all those things, because they're understanding. But it takes a huge toll, and that's even when you're successful. Now layer on another layer of like, we might have to close, right? Or this season is over, and everything has a season, right? And how do you show up oftentimes when we were talking about marketing earlier, where Ian was talking about how he has to show up, and it's him. Well, all of a sudden, this business is aligned around his persona and his personality. And then on the flip side, when things go bad, it's like, well, it's been all me, so now I failed, or did the business fail, right? And so there's a psychological toll, whether things are going good or bad, that I think someone working a 9 to 5, they don't got to worry about.
I feel like that was another setup. I know, man. He's right. So we already know the question and all that stuff. So to that point, it is news to most people here. This is our second coffee space we opened in January. I made the decision a couple months ago that I was ready to move on from here. So September 9th will be, I'm getting like kind of choked up about it. September 9th will be my last day being part of this. And I actually had the conversation with our team. We decided we wanted to make the decision as a team. My business partner here, I don't have a business partner at Deadstock, but my partner here will keep it moving, and he's going to keep it going. He's going to make it like an afternoon thing. But the team, who is actually here working right now, actually was like, you know what? I think we want to move on as well. And so he's going to be refacing, or in some ways, this space. But I was just like, you know what? I need to focus on Deadstock, and I have no partner. I don't have children. I'm mid-30s. Like, I don't have a house, like all that kind of stuff. So I'm just like, I want my life, and so I'm not mad at it, but that is one of those things where like I really had to have some serious conversations with some people who I really trusted, be like, this is what I want to do. Actually, Steven knows. I was like, dog, I'm done with all of it. And they were like, no, you're not. And I was like, I'm done. And they were like, well, maybe you're not done. I said, dog, shut up, I'm done. And then, we had a lot of conversation. I'm like, I'm done with that, right. And it has been like a big weight. And, shout out to Carlos, Diana, my nephew Nori, who, like we were saying, used to get paid $8. Now he gets big bucks. He's the one who opened this space. One of those conversations was, why is Nori not an owner? And so at first I just said, Nori, just take mine. Take my percent. Like, take my 50%, I'm out. But then it was like, now he has a large responsibility of, that's how he makes money. Is he going to be getting paid then? Probably not, right? So to have those kind of conversations. So it is a lonely spot. And it really is like a big toll. And, when everybody's like, man, but what if, and what about, like, aren't you rich? I'm like, no, I ain't rich, man. So, yeah, it's we out here. But really it is everything does have a season. It really is to set up for something bigger, better, if that's what God has planned for me. If not, I'm very fortunate that I do have some skills, and if I got to go back to work, your boy's going back to work. But to just be honest and just be like really steady and set in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can y'all clap it up? Yeah. Very heartfelt. Thank you for sharing.
It's a really good question, and like, there's a book in there, right? Like, it's not an easy answer, and I like that Ian brought it around to like loyalty to yourself, because I have the same situation where I get, my business is like my full attention. I don't have kids. I don't have a life partner. I don't have a business partner. It's 100% my business, and like. I get stuck in that, and it's easy for it to be your identity, and that is tough. And I think one of the blessings of the pandemic was time to like assess that and like, is it working for me? And my company's at a growth point and I'm gonna like go away and work on it and like try to make some decisions here next month. And, you know, like, is that healthy? Is that serving me ultimately and all that? But the other thing is like to not get into like a pity party about it, because it's easy. And I know like if with the loyalty thing, like when you first start your business, you expect all your friends and family to shop with you, and like it's different. It's not, you know, and so you can't hate on everyone just because they're not your customer. You have to get into a different headspace, you know, because you'll isolate yourself. And then, yeah, the psychology thing, I mean, that's kind of was the premise of pregame is, you know, small groups, originally had small groups to talk about things in business. And I know there's other organizations that do that, but to get together and have some psychological support. But I think also, you know, spoiler alert, I'm not just black, I'm also white. And could you, but, you know, I grew up in like super white spaces, and I like have a privilege or curse of traveling easily in white spaces. And so, you know, I have made it part of my mission and my role to go in and call people out on some things that they might not hear from people who look different from me. And so I love the point that you made earlier on, Crystal, about it's not just about like putting a black square on social media and then buying a coffee and patting yourself on the back. Like, you know, I call out a lot of times in public, like, is your life insurance broker black? Is your realtor black? Are all your B2B services black? Because when people think of black-owned businesses, and we perpetuate this too, we think of beauty products and hot sauce and barbecue. You know, like it has to go beyond that. Your attorney, like all of those things. And there are resources in Portland for finding black-owned businesses that do the entire spectrum of services and products that you might need to buy. What?
Shout out to XB.
Oh, yeah. So you know, I have to hold myself accountable to that. But you know, I have found this community of like the black startup space, thanks to Stephen primarily, has been unbelievably supportive to me personally, and I feel really honored to be part of it. So
I like that. This is good. How we doing on time, guys? It's 2:55. Can we have 10 more minutes?
We got a few more minutes.
Like 10 more minutes. Maybe we could slide in one more question and then we'll close out.
On the back end of that, I think it's so important that we come into things telling ourselves certain stories. And I think for a lot of us coming to Portland, we tell ourselves a story about Portland, about Black Portland, right? Like, who knows how many black businesses there are in Portland, right? Like, most people, I think if you ask them, they'd say 50, 100. Well, according to the Census Bureau 2019, we got 4,000, right? And so people, you know, lean into, oh, my barber's black, right? But they don't know we have a black-owned drone company. They don't know we have, you know, schools. They don't know we got people making coffee. And so how do we get those stories to change? And I think a big piece of that is us coming together in community so that we can have those conversations and really challenge some of those things that I don't even think about an insurance broker, or like our lawyer is black. And like, of course our lawyer's black, right? But a lot of people may not think that there's a black lawyer in town.
I like that. I just got to jump in on this because we live it in my circle, and you got to be the change that you want to see in your community. I know that's so cliche, but I'm going to just bring it out and make it real. Sometimes we say black women are catty and we don't get along and we don't like each other. But I get together with my girls on Sunday and we go hiking. And it's not necessarily business that we're going to talk about, but we get an opportunity to see that we're human, that we're beautiful, that we're not catty, that we have the same concerns as every other woman, black, white, or indifferent. And so whatever those psychological things that we have, if you know you have it, because we're mature, we're wise, you know, you can feel it after a certain age, you got to step up and put something in place to kind of quell those issues. And so that's what we do in my tribe. And I encourage everybody to do the same. Whatever you walk into with, I'm only spending $10 with the black business. My engagement ring is from a black jeweler because that's how serious we are about this stuff. We're going to pass by K Jeweler and all the other places, and we're going to find that black jeweler. You understand what I'm saying? Next month is National Life Insurance Month. Get your policies together, but maybe bypass some of these mainstream companies that have large marketing dollars and find you a black rep. They are here, especially in Oregon. So I love the point that you brought up. Do we have to close or can we do one more question? How y'all feeling? Anybody else got a good question? Yes, come on, let's hear from a male.
A little bit on value and everything. My name is Terrell Kitchen. I'm the owner of Sigma Media Studios. I'm a photographer / videographer. We talked a little bit on value and getting out of our own way. So how was it that, you guys got out of your way, you feel me, and found your guys' value in your business, you feel me? We talked a little bit on that, but for someone like me, like you said, I like to do it myself. It's hard for me to reach out to a community I don't know. So how was it you got out of your own headspace and you guys found a way to kind of reach out to your community and kind of stop being so timid about that?
That's good. Good question.
I mean, I guess some of y'all, what's up?
Well, it was also what you said of you brought somebody else in, when you were doing it all yourself. How was it that you were you allowed them to just
Get in your business.
get in your business and tell them
Say
what to do about your job,
Yeah.
your business? How
Yeah.
was it you were able to humble yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think humility is one of the biggest parts of it. Is just like, man, I don't know about this thing, and sometimes it takes for you to get in there after you feel like I was able to just start a coffee company, which is cool. But before that, I wanted to work in footwear. I couldn't just start working in footwear. There were people like Dwayne, like Dr. Dwayne. I keep saying doctor, man. My man is doctor. It's so tight. Who, I just wanted to do shoe stuff, but I was a janitor and I didn't really know how to do shoe stuff. And there were people like Dwayne who were like, this is what you want to do? I told him one time I wanted to be a shoe designer. And so he met with me and he was like, let's meet once a week. First day, just draw lines, pages and pages of lines. Next week, all right, draw squares. Pages and pages of squares. Next week, circles. I was like, Dwayne, I want to be a shoe designer. Like, what are we doing here? And he was like, unless you know the basics, you can't do it. You can't design shoes. And I was like, well, I guess that means I don't want to be a designer. So then we figured out what it was I did want to do, right? And so I just you got to put yourself in that spot or find those people who can do those things for you or who can help you. And just be honest with yourself, like, man, I suck at this, or like, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I've been having this conversation with my nephew lately. He's really good at making food, and I think he unlocked something here. He's always been a person who likes to cook. I'm not gonna disrespect people who've been cooking for a long time and who are chefs and say that he is a chef, but he is really good at it. He thinks that he's fantastic. So now I'm like, go work in the kitchen. You can make 24 biscuits, make 240 biscuits. Have them all rise, have them all be flaky, have them all come out on time, have them all get out to the people when they're supposed to get out to them, right? And so just like you have to put yourself in that spot of where I don't know, right? I could learn, or I'm pretty good at, or what. But just like if that's what you want, you're gonna go figure it out. If you want a sandwich, you're gonna go find a sandwich, right? So I think, or you're gonna find something else to eat until you get a sandwich, right?
I think ultimately the question that you have to ask yourself about being a founder is, what problem do you want to solve, right? And I think if we're being honest, a lot of us go and do it because we want to be a boss, right? So if you want to be the boss, that's going to get in the way when other people, quote unquote, might want to be the boss. But if you want to solve a problem or you want to present something to the community that doesn't exist before, you'll play every role. Like the day you opened, what did I do that day? I was feeling myself, right?
My man came in with a tie, looking ready. He said, "Oh, that stock finally opened from the stand, open like retail with a door that locks, big deal." And I was like, "Steven, I need you to clean the bathroom." And he was like, Yeah, right. Yeah, no, before I got tired. Bro, I feel you, man. I appreciate that. Health department's coming, clean the bathroom. Clean the bathroom.
Yeah. And I think when you want something to exist or you want to solve a problem, you'll be the janitor, right? Like he was the janitor at Nike, right? Because he saw something he wanted to achieve. And I think the best thing you can do to get out of your ways is have that perspective of, because really being a leader, being a founder is really about service. It's about service to other people, right? And so you can't do that role until you get out of your own way like that, right? And that starts with that perspective.
I like that.
I think shifting your mindset is a big part of being a founder. When I was small, I grew up in rural South Carolina in a shotgun shack with no running water, wood burning stove, grandparents, a lot of sand, and a lot of pine trees. And from being little and growing up in small town USA, there was a lot of hustle in my family. Like, everybody was just trying to make ends meet, and on the surface, everything looked great. Nobody looked like they were poor. Everybody had everything they needed. But that mindset of working hard, working all the time, doing everything yourself, it's been with me for over 50 years. So now I need to take that hustle and apply it to the parts that need the hustle and not everything. And so you have to bring people in to do those things that no longer serve you or are not helping you grow the business. And I keep going back to growing the business. Like, you have to get to a certain point where you realize your value is needed more on the right versus on the left.
Yeah, for me, I have to, just to get to like a functional level, I have to do like hours of work on myself any given week. And I've kind of always been that way because I have my own stuff and my therapist and all those things. But like, I have to put a lot of time into the psychological stuff. I mean, I don't do it for my job. I mean, I have to do it to be able to function in my job, but it also makes me better at my job, right? Because I understand some of the psychological aspects of why people do what they do. So when I'm coaching somebody, that comes into it for sure. But I think that self-awareness is huge, and the best leaders I know have a ton of self-awareness, right? Like, you can't manage people if you're not aware of the effect you're having on people, and it can be so hard because like, I'm managing more people now than I have before, and it's just like, oh, I made someone cry again. And I'm like, but they should be tougher, but also I shouldn't make people cry, and so there's that. But I think I do not think entrepreneurship is more holy than working for somebody, and our country and our culture just glorifies it because we're American, and like, that's the mythology. But I love all the startup failure porn that's on all the, like WeWork and Theranos and like all those different things, because you see the smoke and mirrors that's behind those overvaluations and everything in that whole story. But, you have to be honest with yourself, and there's that self-awareness thing again too of like, if you want to do the thing you want to do whenever you want to do it, that's a hobby. If you're willing to do the thing you want to do, but you want someone else to handle all the things around it, that's a job. But if you are willing to put all the things around it first, as well as this other thing, and then eventually have other people do the thing you do, like, that's a business. So it's that on the business versus in the business stuff. So just be honest with yourself about which of those things you really want. I know there's certain things I like to do, but I don't want to have a business of it because it would ruin it for me. But if you're willing to figure out the systems that create the shoe, that create the video, that create great, coaching, like, that's the business magic, yeah.
I love that. Ronnie, you want to say a few?
Maybe one person. Did you have a question? One of you can answer.
No, Lisa, we want to hear your question. But before you do your question, can I just speak to you for a second? Because I think what you brought up is an important point about trust, right? And relying on other people. And the other side of that is it's trial and error. So you may bring some folks into your business and they may not be trustworthy. It happens. I don't want to make it seem like when you start to expand and you start to hire that everybody's going to be top one. Somebody's going to hurt you. Somebody's going to set up shop and build a whole photography business based on what they learned with you. But you, like she said, if it's your passion, if it's your answer to an issue in the community, you will keep going. And that's the beautiful thing about enterprise and entrepreneurship. There's grace for us to learn how to hire. There's grace for us to learn how to scale. You just got to stay on it. And one of the things I do for my business owner friends is I call y'all when I'm on vacation. Because I want you to understand, while I'm in Bahamas, my business is still working, and I just want you to see that. So if you're my friend, I'm going to text you. And I'm going to call you, and I'm going to send you pictures. And so you could think, well, how is Crystal doing that? And eventually you're going to do the exact same thing. And when you do the exact same thing, now me and you can share stories. You build me up, I build you up. So, Lisa, get your question in. Come on, girlfriend.
Hello, Lisa C. Willis, former WNBA gold medalist.
Yes, salute. Salute.
Thank you. Now, I guess I'm a parallelpreneur, work at Nike and run my own business, and I use basketball or sports concepts to teach people how to perform higher and lead better. We all go into business because we think we have a great business, but it doesn't always start off how we want it to go. We feel like we have a time frame before it's supposed to pop, before it's supposed to blow up. And you even mentioned, Sarah, that we do free so long that we don't really know how to charge our worth. So my question is, when it's time to pop, when it's time for the business to explode, but it hasn't really exploded yet, what's the social emotional part that you guys are pushing through to help you say, well, I'm just gonna go at it another quarter, this fiscal year, like it'll get to where it needs to go. Like, what are you telling yourself? Because it is emotional.
It's a good closeout question. Great closeout question.
My feelings can be best expressed by the lyrics of Allure by Jay-Z.
I like it. Give us some bars.
Every time I thought that was that, it called me right back. There's three or four distinct times I can think of over 13 years of self-employment that I tried to get out because it wasn't working. And it doesn't mean it wasn't working necessarily financially, although that too, but like last time I just wanted more of an intellectual challenge because I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over, which is a business, And so like sometimes you have to do that, like entertain the other thing. Like it's not a marriage. I can leave the business. Like it's just a business at the end of the day. I can get a job if I need to. But like sometimes I actually have to go explore the other option to remember why I'm doing it. Because it's been too long. I forget the magic of the beginning. You get the 7-year itch or whatever. So, yeah.
I don't know if the moment of pop ever happens. And if it does happen, it's something you see looking into the past, right? Business is hard. It's boring. It's grains of sand at a time. And so I would never tell someone at some point it's going to pop, right? I think you get to a point where you want this to exist more than you want comfort, more than you want hang out with your friends, all these other things, but I don't know if there's really ever that pop moment. And if it does happen, then you're like 6 years ahead and you're like, oh, I guess that was kind of dope. That thing happened. But I do know this. I think there's people that have figured out one of the most gratifying things in the world is to create something at a kitchen table that some complete stranger pays their hard-earned money for. And when you get a little taste of that, you want to multiply that. And it kind of seeps into your bones. And it doesn't have to be forever. I think that's the other thing about being an entrepreneur is it's a season. right? And I think we think about these companies that exist for hundreds of years, but if you just go and kill it for 4 months, 6 months, 2 weeks, whatever, and then back to the grind, then great. Dr. Edwards wants to say something.
Offer something to you because no. So it sounds like you're in a service business.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll say this to this crowd. Wouldn't say this to other crowds, but so I grew up in Inglewood, and in Inglewood, you know. Oh, okay, all right. I couldn't go to Long Beach for color reasons. You know that. So I learned early on to give it away a little bit, so you can give them a taste of it. This is the drug game in LA, by the way. Give them a little bit, give them a taste, get them hooked on it. They're gonna keep coming back. Okay. That's exactly what we did with the academy that we started downtown Portland, is we gave the instruction away. Like we proved to the companies that they needed us, but we had to show proof of concept that you needed us. And when we showed proof of concept that they needed us, they came to us and started giving us money, right? The reason why I want to jump in is because you have an advantage. You humbly stood up and said you're a gold medalist, right? Count how many black women can say they're a gold medalist. All right? And you have value that sounds like you're not taking into consideration, where as soon as you start to connect with folks that can help you propel because of your gold medal, let that get you in the door. Me and my background being at Jordan got me into conversations and rooms that I wouldn't normally get into necessarily. And through association, my presence elevated, my business elevated through association. And so you have the ability to get in some rooms because of your history. And if you get into those rooms and you connect with some people that use your service, have them talk about using you and your service, and that starts to elevate your brand. And when your brand starts to elevate, people are going to recognize it, and they're going to start coming to you because of the results of the service that you provided this person or persons, plural, that has that status. And so to Stephen's point, I wouldn't worry about the pop. Technically, I told you it took me 8 years to get an investment that someone came to me with, right? The entire time I was funding it myself. And so I knew at some point somebody was going to recognize what it was and it was going to work, but it was slow. And so I would, instead of you focusing on the pop, focus on your monthly incremental brand growth and identity and exposure and visibility, because that's also currency that sometimes businesses don't acknowledge. When your brand association starts to grow, you're going to cash that in one day. And then that cash out, whether you call it a pop or whatever, it's going to happen. But if you start building brand currency, oof, that's actually more than real money sometimes, because it's going to lead to that bigger money down the road. And I would love to keep in touch with you and help you any way I can.
Lisa, did you catch that, friend? Oh, okay. Okay. He gave it play by play by play. All right, I love it. Anybody else?
If I may talk to you. Listen, suffer my mistake. I regret the way I did silly things that caused disdain. So I'm asking, would you please forgive me, Lord? May I explain?